Here's a couple of things that I thought would be interesting topics for discussion today. I wanted to give you just a little bit of an update and a sense of some of the things that we're doing to improve project performance here in California. As Carol said, I come from essentially a project background to this role, and really, you know, as I look around the landscape here in California, whenever we do get in the news, whenever we do get some publicity, it always seems to be around projects. But unfortunately, only when they go bad, or only when something bad is happening. So we're trying to change that storyline. We're trying to change that perspective by bringing out good news when good news happens, but more importantly, making sure that good news happens on a more regular basis. So I want to talk to you about some of the things that we're doing to try and improve performance here in California. Also want to give you a little bit of an update on some of the things we're doing in the procurement space specifically, things that I think for you in the vendor and bidder community are going to be particularly interesting. Then give you a bit of an update on some of the things we're doing in our cloud space, and then end with a little bit of a look ahead as to what I see coming in 2016, especially as it relates to the state of California. Before I do, I did want to acknowledge a couple of changes that have taken place over at my department, at my agency. You know, Bill talked about the aging of the state workforce, and we have been hit hard with retirements over at my department. So these are some new faces, some new leaders that have recently, especially since last time I was here, joined the California Department of Technology team. I know a couple of them are here. Chris, you're going to be hearing about later, or hearing from later, but he's joined the Department of Technology as our Chief Deputy Director of Operations. Rob, I'm not sure if Rob is here, but Rob Schmidt, many of you are familiar with him, recently joined, coming to us from the Department of Food and Ag, and he's joined to take over as director of the data center of OTAC. I think I saw Tamara here. There she is. Tamara, if you would stand up real quick. Tamara Armstrong, who recently joined as the executive director of our California Project Management Office. Ben Word, I think I saw you here. There's Ben. Ben came in as our new enterprise architect for the state of California. I'm not sure if Richard is here, but Richard Rogers, again, a very familiar face, and I think a year or so ago he won the award for a Chief Technology Officer in the state of California, has come over to join us as Deputy Director of our Engineering Division over at OTEC. And then finally Scott McDonald. Scott, I'm not sure if you're here, but he's come over to join us in heading up our Cloud Services branch. So, you know, I'm getting tired of people retiring from my office. So every single one of these folks assured me in their interview that they're no older than 35. So they should be around for a little while. You guys laugh. Ben, stand up. Let him take a look at you. Doesn't he look 33? 33. Okay. 35. Okay. So anyway, the good news is you'll be seeing these folks for a while, and the better news is each one of these folks brings a shot of excitement, experience, and energy and leadership to the organization that I think really is going to help us to move forward. So I just wanted to introduce you to them. Like I said, a few of them are here, and so if you get a chance, chat with them and go up and shake their hands. It's too late to talk them out of it, so tell them all the horror stories you want. They've already accepted. They're already on board. Okay, so let's start by talking about some of the things that we're doing to improve project performance in California. And I tell you why I want to start with this. This is one of the areas that I see as a big challenge for the state of California. As Carol pointed out, we have an oversight responsibility for the state, which means we get to see pretty much most of the projects, all of the projects, except the ones that are really well hidden, that go on in the state of California. And we continue to see challenged projects and learn from those. And so the performance improvements and the efforts that we've taken to try and improve performance are really based on our observations, on the things that we see and the common challenges that we see when we run into a challenge project. There are some common themes, and out of those common themes we try to extract, you know, what could we have done differently? How could we change things to make sure that this doesn't continue to happen in the state of California? I will share with you also, many of you already know this because we meet on a pretty regular basis. I get a lot of feedback from you in the vendor community You come in and you talk about some of the observations you see or some of the challenges that you experience in partnering up with the state of California. So again, we're trying to address each of the issues that we see, especially the ones that we see coming up over and over again. So a couple of things that we've done, this is something very familiar to, I think, a lot of you, is our project approval reform. We've started by saying, hey, let's change the way we approve projects, because obviously the way we're doing it now isn't producing the results that we want. I've talked about this before, but we broke up our FSR process into a 4-stage process. The good news is the first 2 stages have been delivered. The first stage focuses on making sure that departments, before they even decide to take on an initiative, have a very solid understanding of what's their business problem that they're trying to solve. What's their commitment to business process reengineering? You know, what's the organizational capacity to take on a technology initiative? And, you know, how do they even know that technology will solve whatever challenge they're having? So that's one of the areas that we see as a common challenge. That requirement has been put into place the first stage. Second stage is focusing on the alternatives. And this is where we go out and do a little bit of market research, understand what departments are willing to do in the way of commitment to business process reengineering, and identifying what alternatives are available out there. Like I said, both of these stages have been delivered. The next couple of stages, the important news, I guess, to share with you is that they're on their way. Stage 3 is really focusing on procurement, starting to hone in on, now that we have a business case built, now that we have a commitment from the department that from the business side of the house, from the executive side of the house, they're going to do whatever it takes to change their business practices, to get their organization ready, to go through an organizational change management effort to address the issues that are going to make you successful in taking on a procurement or taking on an initiative. So the next stage will be the procurement analysis. We anticipate that'll be released in about a month, in January, maybe a little over a month, in early January. So that'll be a requirement for agencies to follow that. And then the final stage, when we actually go out and build the RFPs and release the RFPs, and actually at that point, go back to the legislature and the Department of Finance and say, hey, here's what we think it'll actually cost and how long it'll take. That'll come in July of 2016. So what does this mean to you as a vendor community or as a bidding community? One is I think you're going to see more well thought out, better planned, and better fleshed out technology initiatives and procurements and projects. You're going to have more of a commitment from the business side of the state department that you partner with to make sure they do what it takes to make the project successful. I think you're going to see better requirements. That's one of the areas that we get a lot of complaints about is, hey, departments don't actually know what they want. When they put out an RFP, the requirements are unclear. A lot of times they're unnecessary. So I think you're going to see better fleshed out, more complete, and easier to respond to requirements. And then finally, I think when the RFPs do hit the street, I think you're going to see different models and different approaches. Hopefully, less risk for you all as well. So, like I said, stay tuned. The other thing I would say there's a number of companies that serve in that niche of providing support to the state around projects, whether it's writing FSRs, whether it's helping put together RFPs, and in some cases helping to conduct RFPs. I think your opportunities will still be there, but they're going to change a little bit. So what I would encourage you to do is get very familiar with these processes, with the new approaches that we're taking and the way that we're going to be building RFPs. One other thing that's significant here, how many of you are familiar with IT capital plans? Right? So these are plans that we required departments to develop each year, and it's basically a 5-year projection of what do they see in the way of IT needs or concepts. The challenge with those is that we asked them to project, and they became much more of a wish list than an actual, well thought out strategy or prioritized list of initiatives that they were going to take on. So what I want to remind you all, because this was announced a while back, we published a technology letter recently rescinding the requirement that departments create a technology capital plan. This is something that we published on our web, and I know a lot of companies looked at as maybe a means to understand and predict what's coming in the pipeline. So we rescinded that policy so that departments no longer have to develop this IT capital plan. What we're replacing it with instead is publishing the approved stage 1 business analysis, right? So I just went over the project approval life cycle. The first stage is what are your business concepts, your business challenges, and what is your proposal in that area? So what this means to all of you is, one is instead of looking at concepts and wish lists, you'll be looking at approved concepts, approved business analysis that I think have a much more realistic chance of actually becoming a full-fledged project. The other thing that I think will be a little bit of an advantage for all of you is we used to publish the capital plan once a year. The new policy is that we're going to publish these approved S1BAs on a quarterly basis. We receive them on a flow basis from departments. And so as we approve them, then we're going to publish them. So what I would suggest is keep an eye out for those as well. Here's something else that we're doing to try and improve the way the departments and the state perform on projects. I've talked to you, I think last year when I was here, I was talking to you about the idea of creating a statewide project management office. The good news is I'm here to announce that we're open for business. We've established the California Project Management Office. I introduced Tamara a little bit earlier. And so the idea behind this project management office is that we're going to offer professional project management services to state agencies. So, you know, if you have an agency that doesn't quite have the capacity, they have a business need, they have a strong commitment to taking on an initiative, and really technology would be a solution for them, but they just don't have the capacity to manage a project themselves. We're here to help. So the office is open for business. We are offering now project management services to departments. A couple of other things that this project management office is going to do. I've asked them to develop a project management framework. Many of you are familiar with the California Project Management Methodology, CAPMM. It had become a little bit dated. It had become a little bit of shelfware and really hadn't really kept up with the way projects are being developed nowadays. So what I've asked the PMO to do is develop a new framework. They're working in coordination with a number of different, what I would consider very successful state agencies that run project management activities to develop this framework. And it'll be used not only by the PMO itself, but we're going to ask all state agencies to use it. So again, what you're going to see as our partners on projects is more adherence to a structured approach of managing projects, better trained folks and guidelines, tools, and techniques that departments will be asked to use. And I was going to announce when the framework is going to come out, but I completely forgot. Tomorrow, when is it? May 2016. May. So in May, you'll be seeing the framework. It's under development now. I've seen at least a draft of it, but mid-year in 2016, you should be able to see that. Here's the other thing that the PMO is going to be doing. We actually do have pretty well-seasoned and experienced practitioners in and around the state. The challenge is they're spread out all over the place and nobody ever knows where they are. So we're going to ask them to develop a database of who are the experienced practitioners, state agencies, state department staff that know how to run projects. One, so that we can build a pipeline. One of my hopes with this PMO is that we'll be able to create a career ladder for folks that want to get into project management as a career, right? So that they don't have to start a job, start a project, and then leave and go somewhere else if they want a promotion, so that they can stay there. So we're going to create a practitioner database. And then the other thing that I've asked them to do is to develop a training curriculum. A training curriculum around project management and all aspects of project management. And the idea here is, again, it'll be used by the staff in the PMO, but beyond that, it'll be a training curriculum that'll be available to state agencies that run their own projects. And again, something that we'll ask them to develop. So, like I said, that's just one or two of the things that we have done. I just wanted to go over quickly some of the other things that we've done to improve project management on the state side and project performance. So we've talked about the project approval life cycle already. That's coming in the next couple of months. Here's the other thing that we did not too long ago. And as you recall, last year we moved procurement specifically for IT projects from the Department of General Services over to the Department of Technology. And I think really what that was is a recognition that it's very important that you start and integrate project approval, risk management, and procurement all into one organization and all as part of the same life cycle for a project. So our focus there has been, how do we develop better procurement models? How do we integrate procurement into the oversight function and the approval part of a project? So that is an initiative and something that we took on and have been successfully implementing. The other thing that we did is we created our Project Academy series. I'm not sure how many of you in the private sector are aware of this, but essentially what we've done is we've brought together those experienced and successful practitioners in state government around projects and said, hey, come and train the rest of your colleagues. So essentially once a month we'll put on a session. In some cases we've reached out to the private sector too and said, hey, you're really good at this. Come over and talk to us about, how do you develop a good project schedule? How do you tell if it's a realistic one? What sort of things should be in a project contract? What's a good testing methodology? What's a good approach to testing? How do you effectively manage stakeholders? What's a good governance structure look like? And so we put on these classes once a month for state agencies. They're allowed to come for free, and they hear from folks that have a lot of experience right here in state government, here in California, putting on and managing projects. We also partner with organizations like TechWire and government technology or public sector partners to put on training and education seminars for the state. A lot of you as partners in the community have been very active sponsors in putting on these events. So here's an example of one that's coming up in about a week or so on effectively delivering projects. We developed a consulting and planning division within my department, and really what that was meant to be is a strike team, a SWAT team when a project gets in trouble, where we found experts, again in government, lots of experience, to go and help a project when they ran into particular issues, again on testing, on requirements writing, on scheduling, on governance, on project management, and they're meant to be just kind of a short-term fix to help departments get over the hump. We've established our PMO. We've developed through the PMO a project management framework, and then something else that I think is going to pay off a lot of dividends for the state. For the PMO, we've created a project management advisory council. And this is made up again of agencies and folks in government that have successfully delivered projects. So as an example, part of our advisory council is Office of Systems Integration. It's got a $4 or $5 billion portfolio of IT projects. The Franchise Tax Board, again, very successful, very experienced folks at running IT projects. To help us, one, formulate and stand up our project management office, but beyond that, helping the development of the training curriculum, helping the development of new classifications for project management to build that career ladder, and then in finalizing and building our project management framework. So again, all of these are efforts that we've taken on to try and improve the practice and discipline of project management in the state and to improve the track record and performance on the state side. Now, let's talk about the other side, and I think something that will be of particular interest to all of you. There's two sides to the coin, right? And I do hear the complaints about how the state performs, but sometimes performance on the vendor side isn't quite what we need it to be. So one of the things that we've focused on over the last year is developing a performance rating system for contractors. So the good news is we're at a point where we can actually bring it out and start to share it with all of you guys. We do have a forum coming up next week in which we're going to lay it all out, but I just wanted to give you a couple of the highlights of what the rating system will be and how it'll work. So first and foremost, we focused on identifying performance indicators that align to the areas that we see as common challenges on projects. And no surprise, they're going to be around scope, they're going to be around schedule, they're going to be around quality of deliverables, and then timeliness. So our intent is to publish these key performance indicators and let folks know before you come in that we're going to be rating performance. Our intent is to bake these into RFPs and to bake them into project contracts as well, so that you know going in we're going to be rating you, and we're going to be rating you on these things. We do intend to make the ratings public, and we do intend to pilot this starting this next year, right? So we're going to look for an opportune procurement and check it out, see how it works. As I mentioned, we have a draft of it now. We did work, we actually asked the vendor community to participate with us in developing this. We also reached out to project teams here in the state to say, help us develop a system that would be fair, that would be easy to administer, be objective and equitable. So we're ready to showcase that. So any of you that are interested, December 10th, which I believe is a Friday, a week from now, over at DGS, in their auditorium, we're going to have a session where we're going to go through it. And really what that forum will be meant to do is to elicit feedback from all of you. We want to find out ahead of time, are there any fatal flaws in here? Are there any things that need to be tweaked? And so the idea will be, once we get your feedback, then we're going to go out and test drive it. We're going to pilot it, then probably make some more adjustments, and then start using it on a pretty regular basis going forward. All right, so since we're talking about procurement, let me go into a couple of other areas that might be of interest to you, maybe a little bit better news. No? Some of you are probably going, yeah, go back to that last one. I want to talk some more about that. Okay, so here are a couple of upcoming bid opportunities. I only really just took a couple that I wanted to highlight. As you heard from Joe, the state is looking at different models for procurement. Here's one that's coming pretty quickly that I think you all will be able to see some of the things that we're looking at. So the Child Welfare Services case management system over at the Department of Social Services, the big spenders, right? So the RFP is set to hit the street a little later this month, in a couple of weeks. So I think what you'll see is a new approach to the procurement model, an approach that's trying to get our arms around this agile development methodology that a lot of you are already using in the commercial sector. It's an approach that is informed by work that's been done over at the federal government, and the idea of trying to reduce risk and speed time to market for the delivery of functionality and of a functional system. So what I will tell you is the RFP is anticipated to be delivered, the first RFP. It's going to be broken up into segments and components a little later this month, with a contract award about 6 months later, right? It'll be followed in sequence by a number of other RFPs, all focused on building this new replacement system. I would encourage any of you that are interested in this to come to a forum that's happening December 4th. I believe that's this Friday. I may be wrong on the dates, but on the days, but it is December 4th. Again, at the Department of Social Services Auditorium at 1 o'clock. I believe both for this forum and then also for the one that we're hosting on the performance evaluation system, I think you need to register ahead of time. So I would encourage you to go on the DSS website or on our website to register if you're interested in attending. Here's another one that's coming up. Again, Department of Social Services, the State Hearings Appeals Case Management System. The bid is coming up. This one will probably be a little bit more of a traditional procurement approach, but the bid is coming up, I believe, a little later this week. We're going to release it, with a pretty short timeline for final bids coming in. So I'd encourage you to keep an eye out for that. In terms of stuff that's going on in my agency, I wanted to give you a little bit of an update on the activities we're doing in and around cloud, and specifically focusing on bid opportunities for all of you. As you know, our enterprise cloud services, our policy is to try and move to enterprise cloud services first. And if you're an agency looking for a technology solution, look to the cloud first. In terms of what we have in our enterprise catalog, we have email there currently, we have infrastructure there currently, we have a number of applications and some services. We hosted a forum back in September in which we talked about some of the other services, especially vendor-hosted services, that we want to add into our catalog. And really the idea here is that we want to have an easy access, an easy level of access and a consistent approach for state agencies. So the idea is to make OTEC the broker of cloud services for the state, especially ones where there's multiple agencies that are interested in the same thing. So with that in mind, we went out and polled the state agencies and said, okay, a lot of you say you want cloud services, and frankly, a lot of vendors come and talk to us and say, hey, there's a bunch of customers that want our technology. So we went out and asked them, you know, what services, what cloud services are you specifically interested in? Here's what they came up with. We asked them to rank by priority order. So one of their top ones was human capital management systems. So there's a bid out there right now for some of those human capital management solutions. The idea, and actually I have a schedule here, so let me refer to that. So the final bids, or the addendum for the final bid, was on December 24th. We anticipate the award on that to be made at the end of January. Assessment and migration services. Again, you know, departments oftentimes need some help in planning and determining what is a good candidate to move into the cloud. So we're doing an RFP for that as well. That one is also set to be released in January. One of the other things departments asked us about was collaboration tools. So, you know, we started to go out and do RFPs or IFBs for each of these, but then we were reminded by our friends over at DGS, as well as by many of you in the vendor community, that, hey, we may already have vehicles for this. If you look at the software licensing program, if you look at CalNet, there are some of those services and tools already available. So rather than making you guys jump through more hoops by doing another invitation for bid or another RFO, what we're going to do is we're going to try and leverage those existing vehicles as much as we can. In some cases, we're going to need to go back out and refresh some of those. So, for example, some of the collaboration tools in CalNet are network-based. So we're going to go out and refresh those categories so that we can add cloud-based services into that. Again, I would anticipate these things being out there on the street in the first quarter of 2016. Identity and access management is another area that folks have asked us about, and then customer relationship management and learning management. So again, I would say keep an eye out for those, either in the way of a refresh on CalNet, maybe a refresh on or additions to some of the software licensing programs, or in some cases actually IFBs. Okay, so I think I'm running late here, so I'm going to end on just a little bit of a look ahead in terms of what we see coming into the future, especially over this next year. I think both Joe and Bill referenced this. You know, there's going to be a heavy emphasis on cybersecurity. They referenced the governor's executive order. They referenced a few of the bills that came out of that. So specifically, you know, there's a couple of things that we're going to be doing. I think the integration center that's part of the executive order is going to call on the private sector to participate with the state, with the public safety community, with the intelligence community in developing a better opportunity and a better forum for sharing information on threats. The other thing that it's going to look for is resources to be able to provide to agencies that get hit, or maybe in some cases private sector critical infrastructure partners that do get hit, in the way of remediation and response. So I would keep an eye out on that. Try and avail yourselves of opportunities to participate. And any of you that work in the security space, the cybersecurity space, look for opportunities to partner when bids do come out of that. The other thing that is also a new requirement for state agencies, there was a bill that passed that requires state agencies to get a self-assessment, a cybersecurity assessment. Some of those will be done by our own military department, but they only have a staff of 4 or 5 folks doing these things. 35 agencies each year have to be assessed. So I would anticipate there's going to be some opportunities there for independent parties, for third parties, for the vendor community that are focused in cybersecurity assessments to come in and bid and help these different agencies out. The other thing that we're doing within my agency is we're continuing with our own compliance audit program. So we're going to be out there not only ensuring compliance with our own policies and requirements, but making sure that folks are participating in the Cybersecurity Integration Center and that they're getting these audits done. So heavy focus and heavy emphasis on cybersecurity. The other thing that's going to happen too, frankly, between our audits and those assessments, there's going to be gaps identified. So departments are going to be tasked with addressing those gaps, and I think they're going to need a lot of help in doing that. So again, I would keep an eye out for those things. I think you're going to see the state focusing on new development approaches, right? I think CWS new system is probably the first example of that. But we're going to continue to look at, is there a different way, is there a smarter way, is there a more effective and maybe lower risk way of developing new systems, of modernizing legacy systems, and bringing new technology solutions to bear in government. Open data is a big area of focus for the state. We recently had a hackathon that was hosted by, I think, the Department of General Services, working with the Government Operations Agency and our own department, where we published a bunch of data, data sets, specifically, I think, on sustainability. We went out to the hacker community and said, see what you can do with this, and they developed some pretty cool apps. They got a little bit of prize money, I think, but they developed some pretty cool apps that I think the Department of General Services is actually going to use. So there's more and more of a focus on that. Health and Human Services as an agency has been kind of in the lead on this, but I think you're going to see more of a focus from the state government in developing an open data portal or an infrastructure where we can start to post and host data sets, and then we're going to go out to the community and say, hey, what can you do with this, and can we gain some value out of these? So keep an eye out for that. And then I think you're also going to continue to see a continued maturation of our cloud environment and our cloud offerings in state government. Just to reemphasize, what we want to do is we want to put OTEC in the middle of enterprise services. If they're not enterprise services, then we want agencies to use cloud technologies anyway. They just don't need to go through OTEC for that. So keep in touch with Scott McDonald, keep in touch with Rob Schmidt, and with Chris Cruz around what we're doing in our cloud services. So these are just a couple of the things that I see coming ahead in the year to come, and maybe next year when I come back, if I get invited back, if I don't get fired before then, if some big project doesn't blow up, we'll be able to talk about some of the accomplishments in these areas. Okay, so I'm going to end with an invitation to all of you. First of all, I want to thank you again for your time, for giving us the opportunity to come before you and share with you some of the things that we're excited about. I look forward to hearing from the panels and maybe some of the questions and answers during the panel sessions to address any further questions you might have. But I did want to extend an invitation. Friday, December 11th, we have our annual open house over at the Department of Technology just across the street. We'll have goodies over there. Sweets, cookies, punch. Unfortunately, nothing stronger than punch, maybe some coffee. But, I don't know. So I know some of the folks over there keep some stuff in their drawers. So if you're buddies with them, maybe they'll give you a shot. But anyway, if you can make it, we'd love to see you over there. So thank you very much, and look forward to a good rest of the morning.